Catholic Church bought this place in '62 and turned it into a sanitarium for the criminally insane. Legend has it that once you were committed at Briarcliff, you never got out. Their most famous resident was a serial killer named
Bloody Face. Say Bloody Face.
Bloody Face.
Hey guys, Ryan and Greg here, back covering some American Horror Story, but this time we're gonna go back in time. That's right, we're gonna spend the next few weeks covering the entire season of American Horror Story, Asylum. The plan here is to dive into 2 episodes per video here, so make sure you're all caught up.
Now, when it comes to spoilers, just make sure to watch along with us if you can. And as every episode goes by, we're just going to watch it as if it's our first time viewing it. So heavy spoilers are going to be to a minimum.
Also, make sure you're subscribed to the channel for more of these American Horror Story breakdowns and all of our TV breakdowns, movie reviews, and comic book deep dives.
Okay, let's get started. Episode 1, Welcome to Briarcliff. It's been a while.
Yes.
A long while, actually.
Been some time since I watched this season, but I remember it being one of the stronger seasons of American Horror Story, so I'm super excited that we're going to dive back into it.
Yeah, me too.
So a little bit about Briarcliff itself. It's obviously a fictional hospital located in Massachusetts. It used to be a tuberculosis hospital way back in the day, and then an insane asylum run by the Catholic Church. Now, as we learn in the cold open with Teresa and
Leo.
Yes, one of the worst honeymoons in history, we learn a little bit about the background of Briarcliff.
Now, according to Teresa's phone, Briarcliff was built in 1908 and 46,000 people died there. Apparently there was an actual death chute where they just dropped the bodies.
Sounds amazing for a honeymoon, right?
Now, the Catholic Church bought that hospital and turned it into a sanitarium in 1962.
Now, Briarcliff is actually inspired by a real-life hospital, believe it or not. It is closely resembles Danvers State Hospital, which is also in Massachusetts.
Now, Danvers was seen in the 2001 film Session 9, and it even inspired the Arkham Asylum video game, and it's considered one of the most haunted spots in the world, or at least in the Northeast.
Right, which means, why would you honeymoon there? Now, it's not blatantly said that this takes place in Massachusetts, but there are a ton of clues that give this away.
The license plate.
For one, the license plate when Lana is coming into the hospital. Also when Kit is delivered to the hospital later in the episode, as well as the mention of the towns Chicopee and Provincetown, which are both towns in Massachusetts. So they don't come out and say that it's in Massachusetts, but we gather from enough evidence across the episodes that it takes place in the Northeast, most likely outside of the Boston, Massachusetts area. So the present day timeline where this takes place in American Horror Story Asylum is actually 2012. Those are the flash forwards we see, but the actual story of Asylum takes place in the 1960s.
Yes. And yes, you're not losing your mind. That is Adam Levine from Maroon 5.
Admit it. I'm the best you've ever had.
Actually, there was this one guy.
Shut up. Shut up. You are so sexy.
Come on. Let's go inside.
Last stop on the haunted honeymoon tour.
Better make it good.
Now, season 2 is set specifically in 1964. Sister Jude Martin, played by Jessica Lange, runs the day-to-day logistics and works under director Monsignor Timothy Howard.
She was named after St. Jude the Apostle, and St. Jude is the patron saint of lost causes.
Now, Sister Jude butts heads with Arthur Arden, played by James Cromwell from You Know.
That'll do, pig. That'll do.
Now, Arthur Arden, he's a little too giddy when it comes to cutting up his patients.
Yeah.
He's a little too happy about that.
He's the surgeon that always wants surgery, no matter what, like all times of the day.
And Sister Jude and Arden run separate sides of the asylum.
Yeah, the Monsignor is pretty clear on how to divide those two up. Sister Jude wants to run the whole operation, but as we see throughout the course of the season, they kind of have 2 different territories of what they run, and they're constantly just butting heads the whole time.
Now let's talk about Kit Walker, played by the great Evan Peters.
Yes, Evan Peters, he does an amazing job this season with Kit Walker, and he's secretly married to Alma Walker, and this was actually a pretty big significant moment here because it's the first time, the biggest time when sci-fi actually comes into the mix.
Yeah,
with American Horror Story.
You think someone's coming to his place, cause some trouble.
It's the 1960s,
because of,
because
interracial
of their
relationship.
You think it's something much more.
No, boom, aliens.
It's aliens. I actually enjoyed this whole bit though.
Yeah.
It feels very X-Files, very Fire in the Sky. They did a really good job with the abduction, so we think, of what's going on.
Production value's great, and at the time you're watching this, and probably in 2012, you're going, where are they going with this in the
Right.
first episode?
Right.
So we'll get back to that a little bit later. But for now, great start.
Now, believe it or not, this was actually inspired by some real-life events, specifically Barney and Betty Hill in New Hampshire in 1961. And this was the first widely publicized alien abduction headline across the US. And they too were an interracial couple. So producers probably saw this and shaped the story for what we're seeing in American Horror Story Asylum.
The incident became known as the Hill abduction and the, excuse me if I butcher this, the Zeta Reticuli incident. Now the story was adapted into a best-selling book, The Interrupted Journey, and the TV movie, The UFO Incident.
Now let's talk about one of our other favorite AHS legends, Sarah Paulson. She plays Lana Winters, and she's a journalist from the Gazette. She comes into the asylum under the guise that she is going to be covering the bakery. Must be some really good baked goods in there.
Yeah, but that's not exactly the case, and she's there actually to investigate the Bloody Face murders.
Bloody Face. An eyewitness caught a glimpse of him leaving one of the crime scenes wearing a mask, which appeared to be made of human flesh. I heard he's going to be admitted here today. Is there any way I could meet him?
You're not in the least bit interested in our good work.
Our town is in a collective panic. This maniac is decapitating women, 3 of them so far.
I see you for exactly who you are.
3 minutes.
Now the big surprise of the episode is that they believe the Bloody Face murderer is Kit Walker.
Yeah.
Based on what they saw at his house and basically how the alien abduction went. Now I must say, as a first-time viewer, I was not sold on the idea that Kit Walker was in fact Bloody Face from the get-go.
No.
I knew that they were just trying to just throw some misdirection in there, and I didn't think that he would be capable of doing such a thing, and that they wouldn't wrap it up so nicely in the beginning of the season.
Yes, it was a little, the fact that they use as the red herring for his character in general, how they have the whole thing, or the way they frame it at the beginning where their love story, there's no way. You had to know that that's probably not the case. Now it's clear they're still in the hunt for Bloody Face. I mean, it's the first episode. Come
Right,
on.
and you should be suspicious about the cops during this time as well. I mean, the situation that Walkers are in, and when they find a body at his house, they're not going to believe his crazy story of alien abduction, right? I mean, let's just say these cops aren't the most thorough investigators at this time right now.
I don't know what CSI was like back then.
Exactly.
Now, a nice connection to the other seasons. So who does Lana see the first episode? Pepper.
Yes, it was awesome to see Pepper, who of course is in other seasons, specifically Freak Show, and to get her as a kind of a welcome into Briarcliff was awesome.
Now, tiny spoiler, we know that Pepper doesn't actually kill her sister's baby or drown it like Mary mentions earlier in the episode.
Yeah.
It was harmless.
She's not harmless. She drowned her sister's baby and sliced his ears off. Follow me, miss.
So Kit is brought to the asylum, and is it just me, or does Evan Peters have to strip down naked and get hosed down in every season of this show?
I think so.
Is it in his contract?
I think it is. Now, the number one rule in the asylum common area is don't touch the music. Don't turn it off. Specifically, don't turn off Dominique by, sorry if I screwed this up, Sawyer, also known as the Singing Nun.
What's really cool is that she was actually a real-life nun, and she became world famous in 1963 because of this record.
We also meet Grace, who helps Kit get acclimated to his new digs.
Yep.
Now, we don't know much about her or anything, or her history or past just yet. It's the first episode, so I'm going to leave it at that. At the same time, for me, I don't remember Grace that much anyway, so I'm happy that we're going back this season too, because I'm like, what happens with her? So I don't know. So I'm fresh into this too, so I'm happy about that.
There's a rule for everything here. I learned them all the hard way, trust me.
Why should I trust you?
Because I'm not crazy.
Now, as we mentioned before, there is a Sister Mary Eunice who is played by Lily Rabe,
Yes.
one of our favorites on American Horror Story.
Oh, yes.
She's not dancing with the White Witch in this season, though. She is actually, thank you, Greg.
No problem.
She's actually seconding. She's like the right hand.
Yeah, she's the right hand to
She's like
Monsieur.
She's kind of both of their right hands, but Dr. Arden's really creepy with her, and Sister Jude is pretty strict and kind of.
True. Arden's
kind of
creepy to
mean.
everyone, though.
That's a good point. That's a really good point. But Lily Rabe plays this part perfectly throughout the season, and how she is in the
takes
beginning
it
of the
so far.
season to the end of the season is a complete contrast, and it's pretty awesome to watch. Did we also mention that Dr. Arden, as horrible as he is also creating these zombie-like monsters called Raspers?
Oh God.
He's been working on these things for quite some time, it seems, and he lets them loose into the forest outside.
Feed.
And then just feeds them dead human parts, body parts out there. Ugh. And no one catches on to this until later in the season.
Hey, it's the 60s, dude. It's all right. There's no internet. They can do whatever the hell they want back then. Now Dr. Arden takes Kit back to his lab to work on him because, of course,
yes.
duh,
Yeah,
of course
that
he
had
does.
to happen.
And those eye clamps are very similar to the ones that Alex had in A Clockwork Orange.
Stop it, please, I beg you!
Dr. Arden discovers a little drone microbot, insect-looking thing in Kit's neck. What was your reaction when you saw this?
Just pops up and gets out of the room and bolts.
There's some technology from light years in the future.
How would
and
you
it's
explain
almost
that?
indestructible, and he pulls it out. Obviously, we're thought to believe that the aliens are watching or monitoring their subjects. So you would think that more than just Kit has this inside their skin.
Dude, I would be checking everywhere.
Yeah, same here.
Nah, no thanks. I'm cool. Okay, now why take Alma, though, and leave Kit behind?
Yeah, it's very interesting. That's the same questions I had when I was watching it. You abduct a couple, or you come in contact with them, and then you seemingly kill and take the woman, but you leave Kit behind and you put a transmitter on him.
Tag them, just like now we're looking at like a fish or something. They just tag them and let them go back into the wild and monitor them and see what's going on with everyone else.
We do know that Kit and Alma were intimate before they showed up, so
yes.
Perhaps something to do with her being pregnant, or
they realize that Kit, maybe they can't have a baby. It's male, female. They're like, let's get a baby, and they take Alma.
Right.
Maybe.
Now finally, if you listen closely throughout the episode, you'll actually hear a bunch of music cues, some nods to the film Carrie. Specifically when Lana is approaching the asylum and when she gets inside the doors, and then when Kit is being dropped off at the asylum, and when Sister Mary Eunice goes outside into the woods to feed the monsters.
Do you hear them?
So overall, welcome to Briarcliff. What did we think? Was it a good starting point for the entire season?
Yep. Just like almost every first episode for AHS, they're really good. Sets up the characters very well done. You know who your bad guys are. You know who those in between. You're like, they may not be around much longer, and you know exactly where they're kind of going and what the main theme is of the season. The only thing in this episode that I felt a little weird now going back to is the whole UFO alien thing. Right. But at the same time, if you're watching this for the first time, anything else, you're like, oh, I'm in, let's go.
Totally, and I actually think that the sci-fi elements mixed in with the body horror and all the supernatural and the religious overtones, I think it actually works really well. It's obviously a lot to throw on one's plate when you're first getting into the season. You'd be like, what the hell is going on? Remember, they're coming off of Murder House, right? So to throw a couple more things into the mix, I was immediately hooked into this episode and for the rest of the season.
Okay, let's jump into episode 2 now, Tricks and Treats. And we start off with everyone's favorite honeymooners, Leo and Teresa.
Yes, they're on the worst honeymoon ever.
How's it going so far?
It continues to be horrible.
Help me.
Yeah, that's the worst honeymoon ever.
We also see Lana's girlfriend, Wendy, for a moment. We saw her in the first episode, too, where she is blackmailed into having Lana sent to the asylum. And she's having second thoughts about that now. But it's a little too late because Bloody Face is here.
Now over at the asylum, Sister Jude catches Lana kind of like taking notes of what's going on, for her big expose of what's going on at the asylum. And as soon as Sister Jude finds out, well, she has an idea to erase her memory.
Yeah, that's the first thing you think of, right? Boom, that's electroshock therapy. That's how we get rid of this. It's the 60s. Let's just write that off to it's the 60s for anything like this.
What's this then?
Now, we've seen electroconvulsive therapy, ECT, in a handful of movies and TV shows, like A Beautiful Mind and One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Now, as you mentioned, yes, it's the 1960s, and things were done a little different back then. There's a long history using shock therapy to cure mental illness. Basically, you induce seizures upon the person. It's extremely graphic and horrific, especially in the American Horror Story universe. Now, speaking of therapy, we also meet another character, Dr. Thredson, who is Kit Walker's court-appointed psychiatrist, and he's here to find out if Kit's mentally stable enough
To go on trial.
to go on trial, or if he belongs in an asylum. From the get-go, I don't really trust Thredson. He seems too prim and proper, too straight-laced. Something is going on underneath that.
All right, let's talk about Dr. Arden and his dark past. He goes from the level of kink to extreme, all right, time to call the police level.
Yes.
So we should have known from the first episode, this guy's probably a little too crazy.
Right.
For even this asylum.
Exactly. We find there's in his past, he's taken photographs of prostitutes, tying them up. Who knows what's happened to them, possibly killed them. We don't know exactly who he is. And I think that's a theme to go across all of American Horror Story, right? When you meet a character, there's always something that's underneath these characters that
very dark past
is really different from what you see on the surface. So, Dr. Arthur, you should be alarmed by what you see and what you hear about his past, and obviously how he's now enacting his power over all the inhabitants and patients of the asylum.
Man, he plays the perfect creep, old creep.
Yes,
I'm
he does.
sorry, even in the scene with the prostitute he brought over, and he's just like grabbing his junk, do this. I'm like, oh, this is, I'm done with the character. Great job by Cromwell to just play this creep, because I'm 100% sold that this guy is the worst.
Candy apple. Looks delicious, but I can't.
Go ahead. Have a bite. Oh, sister, life is too short for regrets. Take a taste.
Now there's a fun little symbolic scene between Dr. Arden and Sister Mary Eunice. It happens in a garden, outside. Well, it's kind of like a garden, it's a forest, but, and he offers her a candy apple, a bite of this candy apple, which she refuses, and then she decides to take it.
Forbidden fruit?
Yes, I think so.
Okay. The original sin.
Take a taste.
And then we get to the exorcism. A young teenager comes in. His parents are really concerned because he's not himself, let's say, Jed, and he is clearly possessed by some demon that not even a doctor can fix. They need to bring in an exorcist to fix this immediately.
It was great. I love the B story for this episode. It was really well done. And at the end of it, the reason for this B story is to tell you about Sister Jude's past.
Right. Not only does Dr. Arden have a dark past, but Sister Jude actually has some dark things that she's trying to keep hidden, that she doesn't want anyone finding out. She was quite the lonely performer at a bar that would get drunk quite often and made some poor decisions driving drunk, and ends up hitting a child one night. Basically, she has refrained from that lifestyle and the alcohol.
And joined the church.
And joined the church. So we learn about Arden's dark past, we learn about Sister Jude's dark past, and this exorcism kind of moves along the whole story. And it was really well acted, and one of the better exorcisms I think I've seen on
television,
on television,
or even in a film, honestly. And I've seen, I've probably seen maybe 50 or more exorcisms in theaters.
Right?
I do. No, it's just every movie has it now. Even Sabrina had it, which I thought is, I'm done.
Yeah, good point.
Never even bothered to get out of the car.
You are a murderer, Judy. You're a murderer! 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 Shut up! You should shut up!
And as episode 2 wraps up, Jed passes away, unfortunately, during the exorcism, and Satan, or the demon, needs a new body.
Yeah, it's not gonna just go back to hell. I mean, that's too easy. You gotta find a new body. So who happens to be in the room? Oh, Sister Mary.
He's dead.
Okay, let's go over most valuable performances. We're gonna do this each and every week. Mine this week has to be, for the 2 episodes, let's do Dr. Arthur Arden, because he's just, again, he plays the perfect creep. He's exceptional.
Yeah, I would agree with you. It's a great choice. And the more you learn about his dark past, the even worse and worse he gets. And you don't even think it's possible to be worse and like not root for
they
a guy.
keep going up higher and higher.
He just he's checking all those boxes of a horrible person. But yeah, he plays it really well. James Cromwell does an excellent job here.
If you're going to be vulgar, I'd just as soon you not speak at all.
My most valuable performance over the first 2 episodes has to be Jessica Lange for Sister Jude. I just think that she sets the tone for the whole season, how she interacts with all the patients inside the asylum, how she reacts with Arden, as well as the little nicknames she gives people, like Miss Lana Banana when she's walking through and meets Lana Winters. All the little things that she brings to the character, I just think without her, without her, the whole tone of this show would be different. So mine has to be Jessica Lange.
Let's jump into favorite moments now, and mine's gotta be when Leo gets his arm ripped off. I'm sorry, it kicks off the show. Right then and there.
Yeah, what a way to start the season, huh? That's a really good choice, but you know, they also shouldn't be in a haunted hospital on their honeymoon. I mean, you kind of deserve to get your arm ripped off. My favorite moment has to be the exorcism.
Oh yeah.
I thought it was just really well executed, and Jed, the teenager that played Jed, great performance. You really do, but it's very realistic.
Great sound design. Or a good exorcism involves a great sound design. It doesn't work without it.
Yeah.
We've already heard that bit. Now skip ahead.
You're going to hell, Alan.
Omnis Spiritus! And the Lord said to the cripple, take up thy bed and fly.
All right, guys, that wraps up episodes 1 and 2 of American Horror Story Asylum. For each one of these videos, we're going to break down 2 episodes each.
And we hope you're following along with us because we'll be back here with episodes 3 and 4 very soon.
See you guys soon.
Bye-bye.